So far, Saudi Arabia has not made any announcement or plans to get into basketball yet. This is coming on the cuffs of Sports Illustrated having a report about 3 weeks ago that really touched on something really sensitive for the game of sports, or the world of sports, rather. PGA Tour had eventually merged with Live. Money was getting thrown at players. Now you have footballers, soccer for us Americans, who are making more per year than entire sports teams in the NBA and NFL. Think I'm playing? Here's an interesting, very, very interesting thing. Did you know that Cristiano Ronaldo will make $200 million? $200 million just in salary. None of the other perks, none of everything else. And there's a lot of perks. Just $200 million in salary. Now, I know people are going to say, well, you can't compare football, soccer to basketball, stuff like that. Yeah, the heck I can. Because what did Live do for golfers? They offered extreme, very lucrative deals to golfers who were comparatively, I'm not going to say they were struggling, richer than most average Americans and people in the world, period. But they offered them deals that you just couldn't ignore. In fact, Tiger Woods would have made, if he had took the initial offer, he would have made more in 1 year or in 2-3 years than he made over his career, or majority of his career. I'm not going to say his entire career, but just from his earnings in the game of golf. None of his endorsements and stuff like that's a whole different thing. I just want to separate the two for those who will listen. Well, if Saudi Arabia ever thought about getting into a different sport like football, basketball, forgive me, well, they could offer the same amount of money. The interesting thing about it is players right now are getting paid $63 million, things of that nature, for the individual contracts. And that's a lot of money when you look at the cap space and stuff like that. But what if there was a league without one? What if there was a league with a much higher cap and the average salary on the roster could be $30 million, as opposed to some making top end and then some getting 15, 20 here? What if the average salary across the board, or lowest salary, was $30 million? What if it was 40? What if the gap between the lowest paid player on the team was 40 and the highest being 80 a year? You think people wouldn't take it? And that's being conservative, considering the numbers that have been thrown out at some of these players. Imagine them starting a basketball league open to different talent around the world, but just to entice the most important figures, just to get the biggest names, to get it up, jump started and take off. They offer some of the highest paid people in the NBA triple what they make. Do you think they wouldn't take it? You'd be a fool not to. You'd be a fool not to. Now, we are in the age of disruption. We've seen tech upend a lot of different industries. We've seen a lot of things happen. We've seen Saudi Arabia take over golf. They forced the PGA, who stood into the fight as long as they could. They forced them pretty much to say, all right, it's better to join you because we can't beat you. And look what happened. Some golfers who turned down that money to go play with Liv are now almost upset and trying to sue because of the money they turned down. Do you think that won't happen in any other sport? It can. And Saudi Arabia and Dubai and all this stuff, they have very, very aggressive goals to be entertainment capitals, not of their country, but the world. And what better way to do that than to get the best of the best in sports? And how do you do that? Money. Now, what was this do for the game of basketball? Honestly, you could find it. It's not something that will be immediate, but you could find that the center of talent now goes through Saudi Arabia. What do I mean by that? Well, the NBA already has an expansion process on how they're going. The NBA Africa, you see it happening. The game in itself is becoming more international. The rules and everything like that. It's a faster game, less this, that, and the other. We're embracing a lot more of a European or international style of play in the American League, in the NBA. However, there are other basketball leagues, again, as I just mentioned, around the world. And those players fight to get here to play with the best of the best. But what if that didn't have to happen? What if the best of the best from here played over there? And what if those players in Africa and things of that nature? Oh, how about all the good players who don't get a chance to touch the floor? People don't realize there's some people, and former players have said this on their podcasts. Current players have said this on their podcasts. There are players on benches right now who could absolutely start, but they don't get the opportunity because of politics, stuff like that. That is the opportunity for a organization to be developed, and with someone with enough financial backing, like the Saudis, to say, gotcha. We're going to provide this opportunity here. And what you can't do is discredit it because money solves everything. Saudis don't have just money by an American standpoint. They have money on a global standpoint. There's not a currency in the world where there's not enough money that they can throw at you because of the resources they hold, the oil. So this goes to beg the question. What if the Saudis started a basketball league? Would you watch it? Would you be surprised if some of the players that we see now get offered double to go play over there? Do you think they would take it? Does a championship in America mean that much now if you can make generational times generational wealth at another country and get treated far better in some respects? With no income tax over there either, be honest with you. Would that matter? Would the championship matter as much? Or would it be better for us now to embrace the possibility of a global game, even if it's not centered in the U.S., that's played just like the World Cup in soccer? Can you imagine that? Some things to think about, because guess what? It may be coming. It may be coming very soon. And it's a scary thought because, one, it totally flips on its head everything we were raised to believe here. We have the best league and the best country and this, that, and the other. We have the best talent here. That may no longer be the case. And we may see the best version of basketball on the cups of being born simply because someone got aggressive, saw opportunity, and had the money to put behind it. But I want to hear your thoughts, man. What do you think? Do you think that will be something that could take place? I know this was a lot of speculation, but at this point, that's all we have. But the proof is in the pudding. They've done it in other leagues. They could do it in the game of basketball. You just better embrace it when they do, because it's coming. And I'm going to be there watching it, because I would love to see what other people around the world what they can do if given the right opportunity, or what another league on that magnitude would look like. I'd love to see it. But I want to hear your thoughts again. Whether it's up, say, put it in the comments, man. Till next time. Peace.